can give me a few minutes here and I'll get us up.
All right, sounds good. And Martin, are you tagging me in this on Facebook so everyone knows?
Yep, I'm doing it right now.
Oh, I can probably watch it on Facebook myself, huh?
Yeah. I don't know if that's a good idea because it'll be a delay on it, but
Yeah.
that's your call.
Okay. Oh, sure enough. Yeah, I got the pop-up. All right, I'm closing that.
Great. Just be another minute. Hello and welcome to Note Investing Made Easier. I'm your host, Martin Sines, and just give me. And I'm going to bring on our guest in just a moment, but I do have a few announcements that I have to make. We have the IMN conference coming up in Dana Point, California, on June 3rd and June 4th. I have a discount code. I know Sean Dorr has a discount code he's gonna put out there as well. Bottom line is we want you to come. We want to meet as many of you as possible, and as we mix it up and try to drum up deal flow. So that's the first announcement. Second announcement is there will be yet another Note Investing Fundamentals workshop on July 26th and July 27th in Washington, D.C. And so if you guys can come out for a live 2-day workshop, that'll be fabulous. Without further ado, I want to introduce our guest, Shandor Lau of Noted Financial. Hey, Shandor, how are you doing, sir?
Martin, good morning or good afternoon down the East Coast. It's still, you can't hear me.
Yeah, let me get your volume.
Can you hear me now?
Financial. Oh, let me see.
Can I phone in? Is there a number I can phone in on the telephone?
Give me. Oh, you know what? Okay, I got you now. We're good
okay.
to go. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, well, please, without further ado, Shandor, welcome to the program.
Martin, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yeah, so I'm a pretty selfish investor. I really just love bringing folks like you on because I want to hear about all your horror stories and all the twists and turns that you've taken to get to where you are. Because I really feed off of that. So let's start out. I mean, let's start out with a young Shandor. When is he starting? When does he catch wind of the note industry? How does his first transaction look?
Yeah, it really goes back to, most note investors, I think, are recovering real estate investors, varying degrees of recovering. I, as a young-ish man anyway, had my master's degree in film school and some award-winning films under my belt that I made in New Zealand, and came back to the United States after, I got lots of awards, I got lots of prizes and great reviews, but it was a good way to go broke. So I'm in my early 30s. My dad made a plywood platform for me to sleep on in a sleeping bag on top of the dashboard of mom and dad's RV. So that was what I came back to. I'm like, all right, got to make a change. Went to the library, read books about investing, and all of them said, all you need is a lot of money, and then you can just make more by investing it. Okay, And then I read this book, still one of my favorites, Real Estate Riches by Dr. Dolph DeRuse, about how you borrow the bank's money and you pay them what you agreed, but you keep the profit on top of that, and the tenants pay the mortgage. They pay the rent that pays the mortgage. So this is genius. Like, simple formula. It's the only, in the world of business lending, right? It's the only business you don't have to tell the bank your business plan. Any other kind of business loan you want to apply to, you have to explain exactly how it works, what you're going to do, how you're going to repay them. You don't have to explain. They know. They invented the plan. So I got into rental property investing really at just the right time, started 2009, and stacked up a small portfolio of a few dozen units with a lot of spreadsheets that said exactly how much rent was going to come in, and a lot of leases that said how much rent was going to come in, and those things that said, oh, tenants, you're not supposed to break or steal stuff. It was just a piece of paper. It actually stopped them from doing that, and it didn't actually make them pay rent. So 2013, maybe I'm kind of a slow learner. That's like 2009 to 2013. The last time I checked was that 4 years, really 5 years if we go back to when I read Real Estate Riches. Needed to think of a new plan, and I read one line in a book about note investing. I'm like, I'm all over that. How's that work? Found out about Paper Source, watched every single video of Gordon Moss's that explained how this works, and I drank the Kool-Aid. Highly leveraged with a very high upside and very limited downside, just like stock options. If you lose a little bit, but if you gain a lot. And compared to being a landlord, it's real good. I had tenants threaten to shoot me. Wow. I haven't had any borrowers threaten to shoot me yet. We did have a real baseball bat attacker. Like, we looked at the pictures on Zillow, talked to the borrower, and it was, since the time we had owned the note. So I thought, oh, that's great. Maybe he wants to sell. How did those photos get up there? He's like, no, that was when I was in prison. Okay. We still got very close to a full payoff on that one, though.
Nice. Now today, I mean, are you more of a yuppie note investor? So will you pull Skip Trace on that and see that, he's got the prison record, and you're like, well, if he's not as scared to go to jail, he's not scared to pay me. And will you pass on that opportunity?
So here's the short answer is no. It was like a full equity note in a non-judicial state. Like, the underlying value, you have regular real estate. You got two ways to get paid: rent or sell. That is all. Notes, you have so many different ways to get paid. Borrowers could make monthly payments. They could pay you off. They could sell the property. They could refinance. You could take it back. You could foreclose and sell. You could foreclose and sell subject to the existing mortgage. You could foreclose, and a third party could bid for it at the auction. So I like having all these opportunities and different ways to go about it, right? I try and think about having a mind like water. What's your objective? Objective, financial freedom, which is another word for freedom, by the way. So if there's a rock or an obstacle, the water responds perfectly and goes around it. I don't care the path. I care the achievement of the objective. I also forgot what your question is, Martin, so go ahead and ask it again. I think I was in the process of answering.
I'm getting lost with you because, I was a liberal arts major too. So I found a harsh business world ahead of me. But I went to business school after, but, when you're in business school, like getting your MBA, a lot of that's just academic, babble. A lot of those financial formulas you'll never use in life. But, everything that I learned getting my philosophy degree, it still, sticks with me.
So, okay, your question is, am I a yuppie note investor? Like, what I target?
Have you gone soft?
Is people, I am a bit, I always joke on my internal team, Shundler Cupcake. I always believe what people say, oh, I'm going to pay tomorrow. Oh, really? Okay. But I look for kind of the high middle of the market, right? Regular rental properties, you kind of want the low middle of the market. You don't want really, really rough neighborhoods, but if you get anything past the low middle of the market, it's really hard for the rent to cover your mortgage expenses and have any profit if you don't sit on it for a decade. But notes, like other real estate investing, I used to think it's fast profit, and occasionally you get those, but it's much more like regular real estate. You make your money in decades. If you're patient, you can. That's usually when those full payoffs come. If you need your money now, the bank who sold the note in the first place, they wanted money now, and they sold it at a big discount. If you wait, you can get that full payoff. So what I look for, I'm a seconds guy. Seconds come first because you have the first mortgage. That if you're buying right, you're buying that first mortgage current. They're taking care of taxes. They're making sure the property is insured, and people who are paying the first mortgage are invested homeowners. It is much more like a business partnership. When they're taking care of the house and paying both their mortgages, they win.
Yeah.
Not like tenants who are so much more likely to walk away. They're not invested. You can look around neighborhoods. So I'm looking for properties in the middle of the market. Properties, my ideal properties between $250,000 and $500,000. It's nice enough that these people are doing a great job. Their neighbors are homeowners, and God forbid you had to foreclose. And we've only had, out of 200 something notes through the portfolio so far, we've only had to foreclose on roughly a dozen. But you got to think about that. The transactional friction of a property changing hands causes so much loss. Foreclosure destroys value. So if you have to do that, you need to have a little cushion, right? If you got a $100,000 house, the first mortgage is 80 and your second is 20. If you have to foreclose on that house, they stop paying the first mortgages, they stop taking care of it. Zillow may say it's 100, but it's probably less than 80. And if you get a $250,000 to $500,000 house, you got a little bit of a cushion, and they're paying down a lot more in principal. Sorry, go ahead.
That's why you say, you're a seconds guy, because when you're dealing with, if you're a first person, then you're saying, no, the value is through the foreclosure, right? You get back the property, you're repositioning, and you're saying, no, the value is in creating the loan modification, and it's the cash flow play. So I think, I'm all in as a seconds guy, but actually I'm denouncing my being a seconds guy as of yesterday. I'm now a loan modification guy. So that's all that I want to be. I don't care if it's, I have some business notes. I was just thinking the other day, I have some business notes. I have other I have some first mortgages that are paying. That's really all I care about at the end of the day. Will they pay me money monthly?
I'm looking much more. When I started in this business, 2013, right? There were a lot more notes available to sort of regular investors in the marketplace. Note sellers, they had exhibitor booths at conferences. Not so much today. I recently went to paper stores, and everyone's not quite every participant at the conference, but nearly every participant's asking me, where do I buy notes? There's no one answer. The answer is to build relationships of trust. I could tell you where I buy my notes, but you don't have that trust with that person. Ultimately, people think it's about money, and it's about trust and relationships, staying out of court, making it easy, having a pleasant and pleasurable business transaction that you have real and personal relationships, very much like collecting. Like it's a two-way street, and there's risk on both sides of a transaction. People think, oh, sellers just want money. Of course, sellers want money, but it's not the only thing. They want to know that this is going to be a clean transaction, and it's not going to be a headache for years in the future.
And that they can go back to the well with you and transact with you again. So I started in 2013 as well. And I have to ask, and I'll tell you, a little birdie put this in my ear, knowing that I was going to be speaking with you. And that little birdie is named, we'll just call him MK for the initial.
Okay.
But he said, ask Shondor about the Oregon property, your first note transaction. So if you don't mind, tell us about the first, I think it was like a BRRRR strategy where you moved into the property.
Oh, okay. Here's one of the many options. I didn't know which one he was talking about. Like, I learned this business. I have just been going through a very thorough financial examination of my entire life and had to explain all this stuff to my banker finally, like 6 years after I started in this business. I'll be moving. I got a new triplex that I'll be moving into. But at the time I started in this business, of course, I want to buy regular real estate also. Like, you should have a balanced portfolio. Rentals are a huge headache. Notes are much more profitable, considerably easier, less risky, but ultimately there is going to be a day when borrowers make their last mortgage payment. There's never going to be a day when the last rent payment comes in, and there's so many more tax advantages for real estate. So thinking creatively and using what the evil genius, or MK as we'll refer to him, had taught me, and other greats of the business like Gordon Moss had taught me, I thought, all right, I want to have a home. I want to live in, move into this new city, Portland. A bank, I own plenty of loans in my portfolio, but I'm not going to be able to convince a banker to give me a loan. I don't have regular W-2 income, and I'm investing in these things now for great gains in the future. Lots of promises. So I got the foreclosure list, went knocking on like 20 different people's houses in a weekend, knocked on every door of a house that I thought this could work for me. One guy threatened to shoot me. Most people just ignored me. And I found this house, and I didn't have to knock on the door. A very nice lady was carrying a laundry basket of her possessions out to the car because she was already moving. I had this big presentation plan. I've got a brochure explaining how here's some of your options, one of which, if someone wants to stay in their house, I'm not going to try and convince them to do otherwise, right? We want to make solutions that work for everyone. Just like with our borrowers, everyone you want to do business with, you want them to be happy with the interaction as well. We wanted the same thing. She wanted rid of this house and rid of the burden of the mortgage payments, which she hadn't made in like 9 months. The bank was going to give her $3,000 for a deed in lieu. I'm like, how about I give you $3,000? I didn't even have to say that. She's like, oh, will you give me $3,000? Done. It was just like so many things about in the field of business are not about the money. It's about liking and trust. She liked and trusted me. She did business, just like interactions between note buyers and sellers. I made it simple for her. I got her out from under the burden of these mortgage payments, and I just owned it subject to the first mortgage, just like if you foreclose from second position, and you'll often have to explain this to borrowers and frequently to their lawyers, how if you foreclose from second position, you own that house subject to the first loan that you didn't qualify for, that is not on your credit, and they're not personally obligated to pay. If you don't pay it, the bank is going to foreclose, but that's all they can do. The seller could see this is a good deal for her. She had a bit of walking money, and we still have a good relationship. This is 2015. We just saw each other in February of this year to clean up some title paperwork, and we're still happy with each other, and we still have that relationship.
That's interesting you say that, and that the relationship angle, because you see it on the front end when you're doing deal flow generation, and you're creating strategic partnerships and alliances and whatnot, and then you see it when you are you're doing trade buys and with other note investors on the due diligence side, and then on the back end when you're working with the borrowers, when you're working with the attorneys. Great relationships with attorneys are highly valuable in this space if you want them to work on your file with a smile, right? That rhymes. And I mean, if you want bad service, pay the attorney late, and you'll see, your case will get dropped to the bottom of the pile.
The one other thing I have to add on these relationships, Martin, and those are all really great points. Everyone's looking to raise capital in this business. We typically do it with collateral assignment lending, right? It's just like private lending against a property, except we're using our notes as collateral, right? Anything can be collateral for borrowing money: a car, house, UCC filing against intellectual property, business assets. A note can also be collateral, right? We set up collateral assignments where lender lends money to us, and if we don't pay, then the consequence is they get to collect on that note that's got a lot higher balance than than what was they originally extended. And I used to think I would explain this to people and all the details, how it's really actually very secure, made videos about it, worked out all the legal paperwork, and realized I was wasting my breath. Like, all of our private lenders are just people who like liked and trusted me and knew this
Yeah.
work. And I was pitching like, the rate we offer, it's probably better than you're going to make in the stock market long term. But that wasn't really they're much more concerned. Oh, this is someone we can trust, we have a good relationship with. It blew my mind.
Mm. Yeah, the trickiest thing in this space is when I talk to people and they're out raising money. My thing, and I've heard other people on webinars, and they're like, "Oh, go to your local country club, or go to an art show, charity event, whatever." And to me, the hardest thing in the world to do would be to educate a new person in terms of what we're doing, and then ask them for money. So I see what you're saying. You have a relationship with them, so that's kind of a different take on it. But to me, it just makes sense to go to a hungry note investor that has money, but they don't have any sweat, they don't have any hustle, and then bring them in on a deal. That just makes logic because they're already in the mix. They know what's what. But
yeah, I like it. Preaching to the choir already. Also, go speak at conferences. You're doing this already. Anyone who's listening, like, going out and tell the world, and when people come to you, then they're already motivated. Like, going out, if you're in a position of chasing something, or a position of people coming to you, it's so different. And frankly, that's why I like the note business too. I mean, if you have most retail businesses in this country or any country, you have to be constantly selling whatever your product or service is. In the case of the notes business, people already, like, you have the most motivated buyers in the world. Before you're going into the deal, they're 100% committed. They've been in their home. I mean, the seconds that we're investing, they've been in this home probably a decade or more. You think they like that house? Like,
yeah.
you go into a negotiation where the other side's cards are well established and on the table for you to read. It's all in the credit report and the title report. And frankly, it's on Google Street View. You can tell how much they care about this by what shape the lawn is in.
And it's interesting because, being a junior lien investor, you do focus so much on that promise to repay from the borrower to the lender. And so you hone in on the borrower's behaviors and their ability to pay. Whereas if you're just buying to obtain the property, you're just pulling O&E, you're pulling a BPO and getting back that property to do what you need to do. It's a whole different mindset. So I think the people that get attracted to our space are people that are, I don't know, and again, it sounds preachy, but it doesn't mean to be. But I get people that are like, I really want to invest with seconds because I like the idea of keeping people in their homes. To them, ethically, they feel like that's where they're at.
Yeah, it's a great thing. It does feel good, but I got to be clear. Like, that's not the only reason. Like, having your interest aligned, like I talked about before, being a business partner with them. I mean, this is going out to Facebook and the whole world, and we're talking about some detailed stuff with background that people might not quite get. But I'm going to do Chandra's. Let's see, we got good camera framing. Chandra's sandwich theory of notes, right? If you're investing in first mortgages, you're in inherently what I would consider a more adversarial position. Like, if they don't pay, they're losing that house right now. Seconds, you have options and you have time, right? If here is a sandwich and seconds are the filling in the sandwich, the bottom slice of bread is the balance of the first mortgage, that as they're paying over time, they're paying that down. This is just like it's perfect regular real estate investing, right? Mm. The first mortgage gets paid down. The value of the property over decades goes up. This year, next year, anyone knows. In the middle is the filling of the sandwich, is your second, that if they're paying, good for them, it's getting paid down. But regardless, as long as they're paying that first mortgage, the equity securing your position in second is increasing. And frankly, if they're not paying, the debt that they owe on the second is also increasing. And I know there are many companies who are thinking about the velocity of their capital. They want to turn these, make a profit now, and much more of a long long-term investor and sitting tight, and frankly, we've had excellent results on this. Notes that we didn't touch for years, we could see the borrower's behavior, that if they were going to make a big fight if we brought it to foreclosure, but to bring it to a head, to force action, cost those legal costs. If you wait for a while, they build equity in that property, maybe something in their life changes. We've had many times they voluntarily decided to refinance. Refinance to me is the holy grail, right? Most people want to keep their homes. What's the way to get a full payoff? They get what they want, you get what you want, is they refinance the house. That's what, when we're doing our payment plans for borrowers that you talked about, this is what you really like to do is modifications. What we really like to do is think of payment plans with borrowers as a step toward a different future. I don't want to, your lenders and borrowers are inherently in a situation of different risk, right? The borrower gets everything they want up front and all at once. In exchange for what they're giving is a promise to pay every month, a promise they could break every single month. So I don't want to be, if I wanted to just have monthly payments, you could do private lending, first position liens on regular real estate with the most reliable borrowers or lenders, borrowers in the world, and just have mailbox money. I mean, reperforming loans have a tendency to be non-performing loans. If we can get a refinance, then that non-performance can be the new bank's problem. We can get that cash back out and either put it in super stable, almost guaranteed to pay private lending, or invest it in new defaulted notes at a discount.
Yeah. It's interesting that you take that long-term view with the borrower. So last month I got on a 212K UPB note in Virginia, fully covered equity note, equity second, got a loan modification, with the borrower through negotiations with no legal, which was like, that's the home run. That's rarely happens. For those of you who are just learning about note investing, rarely happens. But the idea is that I'm talking to them about a credit repair game plan so that by the end of this year, they'll be positioned to refinance their property and pay it off, which is good for them because they'll get a lower interest rate. They'll tie in the first and second and everything else. Good for me because it's a full payoff.
Yeah, and I'm trying to always to follow the law, right? We can't give borrowers legal advice. We can ask questions, point to facts. And what I like to try and do is just point out facts and say, listen, you loan with us. I don't want to give borrowers such favorable terms that they're comfortable in sitting on this loan. If the original interest rate was 10%, that's what they're keeping. So, and you can simply ask the question, have you taken a look at bankrate.com, LendingTree, or other sites? What do you think your monthly payment would be if you refinance this with a bank? If they're rational, and they look at it and they could save $200, $300, $400, $500 a month, just like I was talking about with private lenders. Like the way really people take action is not by being sold on something, but making the decision internally. No one wants to feel like someone else convinced they did something. They want to feel like they made their own autonomous decision. I like it, you like it, every single human being wants that sense of autonomy. And if you can sort of ask the right questions that lead them to come to that conclusion on their own, then everyone's going to be more happy. And just like dealing with homeowners versus tenants, they're internally motivated instead of externally motivated. They're, instead of being motivated by loss aversion and moving away from pain and fear, they're moving toward a positive reward.
Yeah. And then you couple that with you treating them humanely, and it's all good. Now in terms of like giving advice, I agree with that. So I'm a proponent to give them some connections to credit repair services. So if the conversation goes where they want to get back on their feet, they want to pay this off at some point, I'm going to help them, and let the credit repair people do their part to see if it really happens.
That's great. Yeah, that's something they're never ever going to get from the big bank. who just gets, they just get the phone menu anyway. Like, it's impossible for them to reach a real person who knows their file and knows their case and actually cares about them in the first place.
So let me ask you a question, different topic. So Shondor starts in 2013 buying non-performing notes. Does Shondor buy the non-performing notes, self-service, and then service with a licensed servicer once the loan modifications struck?
That is a hilarious question. So when I first started this, that was exactly my plan. I'm like, why am I going to go pay a servicing fee when like nothing's happening in the loan? After one time managing legal on one borrower, having to phone around law firms, will you do this for me, like Joe Investor, who's like at the time like $5,000 of legal in, let's just say, a judicial state in the Midwest. That's like a lot of cash out of pocket. I'm like expecting some customer service. If you go to a retail store and you spend $500, it's like, yes, Mr. Lau, no, Mr. Lau, 3 big bags full, Mr. Lau. $5,000 with the law firms, like, I can barely be bothered to pick up the phone. It's a real favor for you even to return your call. After that, we did, that one, it was a short payoff. We did one where we did our first modification on our own. After that, I found Allied Servicing Corporation, Spokane Valley, Washington, who I love to death. They do an excellent job. We have most of our loans serviced by them. Experienced people who I can trust, and I can focus on like all the calculations, exactly how much back interest on HELOCs. They got systems for this, for compliance, licensing, everything. I mean, what is the greatest value you can add as an investor? The number one greatest value is seeing value that others don't and acquiring that, right? The bank didn't see the value in these loans. They let them go at a discount. You saw that value and found a way to realize that value.
No, that's great. Yeah, we've had Melissa Bowling on, and so her video is on the site if anyone wants to check that out. So this will be an inside question here between us here because no one's listening. So even with, will Melissa Bowling even support you when the seller has zeroed out interest rates on HELOCs that they sold you? So there's no calculation for past due interest arrears, and you have to manually do it?
We're still working on that one. I mean, the kinds of things people think, oh, banks have got everything all lined up and figured out. Robo signing after being in the notes business, like nothing shocking anymore. Oh, the bank made a mistake. They ignored the borrower. They did so many things. They had the opportunity to add value and refused, or just they're not set up to do this. Like, we can be set up to provide value when large lenders can't. And I fear that, we have a lot of legislation, state legislation, putting more and more restrictions on small note investors. Mm-hmm. I just think that is going to squeeze out more and more small. That cost of compliance is going to squeeze out the people who can and do make real solutions, and it's going to push it more and more to large institutions, and people are going to be looking to an automated phone menu to solve their problems, and it's probably not going to work.
Yeah, thank you, Ohio. and it's not even just about the money, but have you started the registration process with Ohio?
I started this process called Sell My Ohio Notes.
Yeah, hey. yeah, no, understood. It's it's crazy. It's not going to help anybody. Everybody gets hurt as a result.
So Martin, there's something we chatted about a little bit before that I really wanted to bring up, and trying to think about the future of this marketplace. I mean, the overwhelming majority of seconds in the U.S. real estate market today were those originated in the real estate boom, 03 to 07. They are making more seconds, still far fewer of them, and frankly, really tightly underwritten since 08, 09. People have been making, since the day people have been making loans, people have also been defaulting on loans. So there will be inventory, bank inventory coming out of that, but I'm trying to think about next step, new chapter. I see, there are many people in our space at conferences that are continually looking for seller carry notes, primarily first notes. That there's a lot of marketing from companies buying those, a lot of competition, and I've had some excellent results in the commercial seconds space. It's not like these are out there in a great volume, but also not like there are many people out there hunting and looking for those. So I'm actively searching for brokers and people who are selling these, and also working on systems to go hunt them down and contact the sellers directly for something. All the same principles for residential seconds also apply to those commercial seconds. And I mean, I've written a couple of articles for the Paper Source Journal about this, and you have lots of other advantages, such as it's a commercial loan. They did this to make money. There are fewer regulatory restrictions on this in terms of consumer protection laws. And the borrowers that I've dealt with, on the ones I've seen so far, they're business people. They're much more likely to take a rational approach to this. Dealing with people's emotions in this business is the skill that almost outweighs the logical, rational side of it. What people have in their head that this is true. Oh, I haven't paid my mortgage in 5 years, therefore it just went away. You can believe that. The law is different, but I'm going to have to spend $5,000 in legal to prove it. If you can use the power of your voice and your mind to convince someone of that, just added $5,000 of value by talking.
Yeah, that's the golden hour, right? Right up front, when you're before you start legal, or when you send the notice of default. I mean, that's your window to shine, because it's gonna get costly after that. So you bring up a good point. Just to keep your possibilities open to different types of note opportunities outside just junior liens attached to primary residences. So let me ask you two questions in regards to state of the note industry for 2019, which has been our focus the past few months. What do you say to the veteran note investor that was kind of just sleeping on sourcing for a number of years because deal flow was so abundant, and now they're kind of finding themselves without deal flow, looking for deal flow? What do you say to that person?
Think about when you weren't a veteran note investor and you had to hustle. That's the main thing I can think of. I mean, sources are still out there cultivating those relationships. It's about a lot more than just like offering cash. It's about adding value. You can add value online, demonstrate what kind of a person you are to do business with, demonstrate things that show you're a likable and trustworthy person, and nothing beats being there in person, shaking hands, breathing the same air and sharing a few jokes with the real people who do have product to sell. I mean, ultimately, notes still trade at discounts, not as much as when we started in 2013, but the bank is not selling them at these discounts for a lark. You are still doing the same fundamental thing we've been doing since the notes business was invented thousands of years ago. You are taking a problem off their hands. They need to get rid of it. I was sick a couple months ago. It's like the only time I watch TV, and I watched this show, Medici on Netflix, and sure enough, Dustin Hoffman is playing the founding father of the Medici family of bankers in Italy, and he's trying to take down his enemies. And he talks about buying notes at a discount in Renaissance Italy. Like, these systems, these principles of banking and investing have been here for centuries. The exact details of the market go up and down a little bit, but the opportunity has been here for hundreds or thousands of years. You really think like someone who is determined to succeed will find a way?
Yeah, well, that brings me into the second question. what do you say to the person just starting out in the note space, and they're kind of bombarded because there's a lot more webinars, there's a lot more white noise, and they don't know where to go? How should they best get started?
I'm going to give, I sort of prepared for this question. They should get started. Go to my website, Noted Financial. Read all the books on my reading list there. The difference between now and when we started 2013, I read every book about no investing I could find publicly available. Both of them. Now, there are dozens. They're all on my list. It's on my website.
What was it? Invest in Debt and Gordon Moss, right? And
because even before, I was like begging. I like met Gordon. I was like begging. Oh, can I? Here's it. Wait. How do you find paper? Add value. I was begging Gordon to give me like an advanced copy so I could help him. I was also a liberal arts English major. I could probably help you with the copy. He was. I understood it was private. He didn't want to do that. But if you every one time you try to add value, it may work, it may not. But a consistent pattern of adding value to others will produce extraordinary results. A consistent pattern of having the courage to go talk to strangers and see what you can do for them will yield results. So for new investors, read everything that's publicly available and then use that information to discern who you want to be, your teacher, your mentor, your guru. You're not just going to be able to learn this business by reading. Find someone who will teach you, and then get stuck into it and buy some loans. It has never been easier to buy retail notes. Frankly, I'm a big fan of the website PaperStack, a transparent, simple exchange that everyone can understand to make the steps so easy. It's never been more convenient to buy paper reliably. They have vetting systems, and you can buy affordable paper on a one-off retail basis there.
Yeah.
So you overpaid a little bit on one note. You paid $5,000 for something that maybe is only worth $2,000. That's so much cheaper to learn from that experience than to pay for a really expensive class. Or it's so much cheaper to learn from that experience on a really low consequence note. Even if you lost all that money, now you know what you're doing.
You and I are so,
where you have a lot more writing.
We're so there. We're so in sync, because that's what the kind of the advice when I'm mentoring folks. I'm like, let's look for low dollar UPB notes. Let's start there. And that way you're not sticking your neck out, something large, and you'll have your money for when you need it. On the subject of books, it's I put this out in a video a couple days ago, but almost like look at some folks that come into the space, and it's almost like going and buying a book on Amazon, and you don't want to pay for the book, but you look at the table of contents, you read the epilogue, you read the executive summary, you read the reviews by other people that have read the book, and you're somehow trying to piece it together, which can take a lot of time and energy versus just going and paying for the book. Paying for formal education, wherever it is. I think people should take several types of formal education with different people, find out who they truly connect with, and then go from there. But if they don't take formal education, they need to have total immersion into the space, probably either way. But at the end of the day, and I know Matt Kelly's always rags on me for saying this, when I talk about mindset, but people are not going to make it until they first have their life in order financially and also time management wise, because you need to put so much of both into this space. If you're not good with money, making more money is not going to make you better, and same with time.
I do agree with you. Like, you have to start out. It has to start out with your why, your purpose. It starts out with your beliefs. If you believe that money is bad, rich people are bad, you're going to be broke forever. Like, you can't become successful without believing you deserve success. It starts, you kind of, if you have if you have a powerful why, the how will come along. I mean, we both have our particular field. There are people succeeding in every single field of business in the world. If someone else can do it, then you can learn. It takes you can't teach determination. You can't really teach internal locus of control. You can't teach motivation. If you could, you'd be. Tony Robbins is still working on how to be a better teacher of motivation. Human nature doesn't change that much. Like human behavior in aggregate is so predictable. I mean, to me, we're talking about a lot of the mechanics of the particulars of note investing, but focusing on success and specific steps toward success. I mean, I focus as much in my reading and my personal continued study on personal development, study, and coaching as I do on specific business knowledge. Like the inspiration and the why, it has to start with that. All the how, it's out there. This is not the only webinar that teaches the mechanics of second note investing. All these books are out there. Like the secret is out. Like Dustin Hoffman is teaching you how to do it on television. Knowledge is not actually the barrier. Once you have your purpose defined, the knowledge is almost like a foregone conclusion.
So let me ask you a philosophical question. Mm-hmm. So one of my favorite authors is Bill Bartman. He wrote Bailout Riches. He became a billionaire off of buying notes and creating a collection company, a collection agency that worked out these notes. One of the best books you'll read, but it's not on the Amazon list. Bill Bartman, Bailout Riches. I met him. I heard him speak with my wife in 2005-ish. And I wanted to shake his hand and I didn't, and he passed away just a few years ago. So it's always been weighing on me that I didn't do that. I didn't take action. But anyway, so Bill talks from a perspective of negative motivators being good for you. That, people that are against you, focusing on negative motivators to drive you. But then you have Tony Robbins and a bunch of other people that say positive motivators should push you forward. What do you think? Which way or the other?
So one of my favorite books, it's called Thinking Fast and Slow by Nobel Prize winner Daniel Kahneman. And it talks about human nature, that people like us as a species, we're more motivated by loss aversion, by avoiding the bad, than we are seeking gain or seeking good. It comes from our ancestors. Like if there's a tiger attacking the tribe, that's got to be your number one focus. Drop every single thing. Even if you we're working on the sweetest piece of art you ever made, you got to focus on the tiger. We're in a different space now. If you can overcome the tendencies that came from our ancestors that don't really suit us anymore. We have so many things. I love the great outdoors and adventures. Skiing is my metaphor for this, right? It feels so weird because our ancestors didn't evolve skiing. Usually, if you're going downhill and you want to stop, you push your heels down and that'll stop you. Try that on skis. Let me know how it works for you. It's really hard to fight against all your genes and human nature for so many centuries. But if you can just overcome that and adapt to new circumstances, you can succeed in skiing. Same in investing. People are so worried about loss aversion. Don't want to lose money. But if you focus on what you don't want, you always keep getting more of what you don't want. If you say, I was giving some coaching to a hiking friend. She's like, oh, I just want to find a guy who doesn't cheat on me and doesn't lie to me and isn't out of a job. And I'm like, that's why you keep getting these kind of people in your life. If you focus on someone, the characteristics that you do want. What do you want? Loyalty, stability, success, motivation. You focus your mind on these things and you can succeed. Seconds and notes, defaulted notes in general and defaulted seconds in specific are available at discounts because of loss aversion. People think the first thing people ask me about when I say I do this, they're like, oh, isn't it risky? If we paid full price, it would be very risky. But if you use your logical mind, to overcome your lizard brain that just says, oh, risk, fear, aversion, afraid, don't want, and you can see how you can create value in something beautiful that other people can't, you can live a life of freedom and abundance. Focusing what you do want instead of what you don't want, that is the way to live richly.
Very, very nicely put, Shandor. Thank you. That was beautiful. I'm going to replay that later. Seriously, that was pretty deep stuff. So let me switch gears here. Wall Street Journal article. Would you do it again if you could?
I would do it again. There's a post about it on my website. There's like one consistent behavior that I always try to do that has yielded me tremendous results is go talk to strangers. Every single person that you know and trust now came because you broke through fear and discomfort to talk to a stranger. At one time, your own mother was a stranger. At one time, your own father was a stranger. Everyone that you love was once a stranger, and extraordinary things come out of adding value. Everyone else is afraid to talk to strangers too. If you will come out of that shell and just introduce yourself to someone, most of the time, it's just going to be a pleasant conversation.
Yeah, but I think
every once in a while, you talk to someone and it's extraordinary.
I think where the comments were more geared towards is not the person you talk to at the Wall Street Journal, but then how other people can interpret that, and if they have a loan with they see a letter, a borrower outreach letter from Shandor, and they're like, and they Google search and they find you wrote an article, and I think you came across like very sincere. You were like, hey, I'm trying to help people. But the article, I think, went down, but sometimes I have to foreclose. And I think kind of like that was probably something that, that it would have been better having that not be included in the article. That's just my thought on it.
I mean, here's what I think. I went to a conference. There was a guy from the Wall Street Journal. I broke through some fear and went to talk to him. Here's a reporter from the largest business publication in the world. He's going to write about this business. The choice I have to make is, do I want him to hear it from me, or I want him to tell about it to the world from someone else's point of view? Like, I was so conscious while doing this. This is going on the public record forever. And frankly, this is probably the most read piece of writing ever about the note business. I'm constantly thinking while this is going on, I'm not just representing me here. But also, like, the motivation, most people are motivated by loss aversion. Most people are more strongly motivated by not losing than by gaining. That's why people pay their mortgage. There's an excellent Market Watch article that done from a Federal Reserve study that I posted to Note Investing Made Easier. People pay their mortgages because they don't want to lose their home. My goal is not to foreclose, but it is what produces results. It is how we get borrowers to talk to us. Like, I sleep well at night.
Yeah. So they don't want to lose their home versus someday they're going to have this home paid off and it's going to be theirs. That their thought is more, I don't want to lose my home now. That's why I'm making my payment. So we have a question, Shandor.
Mm-hmm.
Are you ready?
Ready.
Matt Kelly writes, so you are encouraging people to talk to investigative reporters.
I'm encouraging people to choose carefully what media they talk to, and be good with the consequences. I made a choice. It could have gone many different ways, but also by being the center of it and managing it. I didn't write the article. I didn't direct the video, but I had a great deal of input into how it came through. And, imagine this is someone else out there taken out of context that I have no control over. Yes, I would do it again.
Okay. Well, there you have it, folks. So one last question, and then we're going to wrap up. What are some of your daily rituals that you have in place that help you win on a regular basis?
Number one, I get up and exercise first thing, virtually every day. I mean, I might miss a day once every 3 weeks. I meditate on a very regular basis, not every day, probably every other day. Consistent commitment to continued learning. I don't really listen to the radio or music. Like if I am not doing something that requires my full attention, I am listening to an audiobook, and primarily an audiobook that is going to teach me something to improve myself, choose and cultivate relationships, in just like curating, just like practicing good nutrition and eating healthy. Feeding what you feed your mind is equally important as what you feed your body. So cultivating relationships with people like Matt Kelly, other people who are also committed to success. You're going to be like the 5 people you're closest to in terms of income, religion, education, success. I want to be surrounded with people who are better than me, so I have something to look up to, not surrounding myself with people who I feel better than and feel like, it makes me feel good because I feel good and superior. I want to feel like I'm chasing something, like I'm after something, that I'm seeking something positive instead of avoiding something negative.
Very well put. And to that point, and I think in line with everything you've been talking about, you're not so much looking to chase that. You're looking to be pulled towards it. I think if you're in alignment with advancing yourself with the people around you that you're connected with and are much further along, there's almost like a gravitational pull that's pulling you towards them.
That's it. And always add value. Every interaction you come to, think of what you can do for others. I mean, the world is full of takers. Everyone wants to take, get, receive. It's like dust in the wind. It's the most common thing. You're talking about how to find note buyers for new or experienced people. People can sense who is there to take and who is there to give. People can smell a taker from a mile away. They're already running. They're already not listening before you start talking. People see that you're someone who wants to add value and give. You can surround yourself with the finest people who will probably want your company because it feels good, because it's fun, because it's enjoyable. That is like one of the easiest ways to add value, at not only at no cost, at something that actually makes you feel good and live a happy life as well.
Very good. Well, Shandor Lau, Noted Financial, thank you so much for being on the program.
Martin, thank you very much. See you in California next month.
Yep,
Bye-bye.
absolutely. Take care, everyone.